Hey, listen, I'm really excited to announce this next guest speaker. I called her about 4 months ago, and I said, hey, Tiffany, we're having our first real big Transform event, and it's in San Diego, and I would really love for you to come speak to our customers. The history with Tiffany goes back about 10 years, and basically, the respect level for her speaking and the respect level for her knowledge in the space has been at a 10 level on a scale of 1 to 10. Let me just read you a couple quick things. Tiffany is the growth and innovation evangelist at Salesforce and the author of Wall Street Journal and 800 CEO READ best-selling book, Growth IQ. I read this book several months back, and it's called Get Smarter About Choices That Will Make or Break Your Business. And we will actually be giving all of you one of those books today, and she will sign for you. Tiffany is a top influencer in customer experience digital transformation. Are you kidding me? This is called Transform. The future of work and sales. The industry has recognized Tiffany with some amazing awards recently, including being named Thinker of the Month in December of 2018. And in 2019, on the radar by Thinker 50, one of the most powerful and influential women in California, from the National Diversity Council, top 50 sales and marketing influencers by Top Sales World Magazine, top sales influencers, to name a few. Tiffany often writes for several different publications. She spent also 10 years at Gartner before, and we've actually done a couple of projects together. Can we just give a warm welcome to Tiffany Bova? Come on up, Tiffany. Woo! Woo! That's all I got for you. We're going to shake hands and everything. Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you, everybody. So Joe sort of undersold that conversation when he asked me. He sort of sends me this email and says in the subject line, please speak at my event. I didn't even open it. I replied back and I went, okay. So it's really a pleasure to be here. You know, throughout my career, it has been people like Joe who have been super supportive of not only my work, but sort of the things that I've been doing since leaving Gartner and joining Salesforce. So this presentation is really a culmination of many things. It is research I did prior to leaving Gartner, from my practitioning days of running sales, marketing, and customer service in startups and Fortune 500 companies, and now really the last 3 years, getting closer to understanding how the changes in buying behavior is really impacting the way brands have to think about the way they message, engage, and go to market when they bring their products out to their consumers and their customers. And I would say that, when Joe sent that email and he was, now working at Reputation.com, for a moment I went, is there a reputation score on me? Like, do I have to go? And that really reminded me how thankful I am that the wild data world we live in today did not start until after I was 30. How many love that fact? Right. Because if the reputation scores started in our teens and 20s, I probably wouldn't be on the stage. Anyway, I digress. So this is all about welcome to the era of engagement, sort of your customers await. But before I get started, I just want to say thank you to those of you who are Salesforce customers who have followed me over the years, and of course to the entire Reputation.com team for having me. So this is really my anchor comment, that growth and comfort never coexist. This quote came from Ginny Rometty a number of years back. It's actually one of the opening quotes in my book, Growth IQ, and it's a shortened version of a longer quote. But when she made this quote, and when I included it and decided to include it in the book, she had 27 quarters of no growth. Right. Talk about being uncomfortable, right? A woman who's a CEO of a Fortune 10 company shedding billion-dollar businesses to Lenovo, getting rid of the Think, getting rid of storage, getting rid of the chip business, the microprocessors. She's pivoting towards cloud, making all these acquisitions, standing up something called Watson, moving it to San Francisco, and it was very uncomfortable for her. But more importantly, it was really uncomfortable for employees, for customers, and for shareholders. And so as you think about how you're going to orient yourself to find growth this year and the years coming, I'm here to tell you absolutely that it's hard and it's not always comfortable. So with that, let me set the scene. Let me set the scene for where we are today and really what got us here. If any of you follow the World Economic Forum, they started talking about something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution a number of years back. There's even whispers of a fifth industrial revolution coming. I'm like, God, we're halfway, finally people are even understanding what fourth means, and we're already pushing towards the fifth. That's how fast technology is changing and impacting the way we, as companies, as consumers, and businesses behave. So the fourth industrial revolution is all about being connected. There was a big movement a number of years back about digitizing the back office, right? Modernizing the data center, potentially going to cloud, hybrid, some parts of your business, software as a service, infrastructure as a service. All of the things that started moving very quickly was back office oriented. And over the last couple of years, we've really seen that shift to this much more customer-focused effort. That's where digital and transformation really have impact. But let me be clear, when I talk about the fourth industrial revolution, when I talk about digital transformation, for me, digital is the technology side. Transformation is all about the people. And so when you start putting those two things together, this is a fantastic quote from Darwin that really shapes up that, those that are able to survive are the ones that are most adaptable to change. Because ultimately, when you think about everything that's happening in this new digital economy, the speed in which information can be shared between companies, between employees and employers, between shareholders, comments can be left online and have impact immediately, good and bad. Movements and revolutions can happen with one tweet. We are absolutely in a completely different world than we were just 5 short years ago. But with that disruption comes a tremendous amount of opportunity. So you hear lots of people saying, AI is going to replace all these jobs, and it's going to wipe out entire industries, and I don't believe it. There are things that need to be automated. Like, I don't know when the last time you got in an elevator and there was an elevator operator in there. Like, probably didn't need them anymore. So there are things that we can transform, but if you're not going to have the elevator operator in the elevator, improving the experience when someone is going maybe to their room in a hotel, have that elevator operator now become a greeter in the lobby. It doesn't mean they have to go away. But if you're going to commit towards that kind of business model and you move from being very customer-centric when it comes to innovating, company-centric when it comes to innovating, to moving to being much more customer-centric when it comes to innovation. So using AI, the potential of disruption for jobs, the impact on the way we do things, if we're internally focused, it's slow. It's a closed process. We're modernizing the data center, and there's very little, if any, customer input, let alone employee input. When you become much more customer-centric, you actually want the opinions from the outside. You go and you start listening to what customers are saying about you and your brand. You have to become much more agile and responsive. More importantly, now more than ever, trust is this new currency. And that's really being driven by this transparency all the way from the top of organizations. If you know anything about where I work, you can completely understand this comment that our CEO is very transparent, out there on social issues, but it's all about trust for us. And so you have to make sure that if you're going to pivot towards customer, that you keep that in mind. And everything at the end of the day, the decisions that you make going forward after you leave here today, should always have a customer behind them. It shouldn't be made from a company-centric view. And this is being driven by the speed in which the market is moving. Now, I'm not all for speed's sake, because you can get sloppy when you're trying to move too fast. But what I want you to do is think about, how do I get to the future just slightly ahead of my customers? Maybe 18 months. So when they show up, you welcome them when they arrive. If they want to communicate with you via Messenger or online, or for those of you in healthcare, if you're going to start to serve the elderly and try to figure out, how do I do that? Do you do a deal with Lyft or Uber to help get them to the hospital in a seamless and easy way? Or do you say, after they leave, a serious procedure, do we send them home with an iPad so we can keep an eye on them over the next 2 weeks as they are recovering, so they don't have to come in to the hospital? That's the kind of, just get a little ahead of where they're going to be. I don't need you to be Steve Jobs ahead, where I'm sure at some point when he was thinking about the iPhone and thinking about what was going to become of the iPhone, I'm sure he never imagined that there would be more iPhones on this planet than toothbrushes. Frightening on so many levels. However true. But I don't need you to think like that. Like, I'm going to completely disrupt everything. But I do need you to think is, where do your customers want you to be? And this is all about this sort of connected experience mandate, that your customers want relevant and personalized. They want you to blend this digital and physical world between engaging with you online and offline. Are they similar experiences? They want to make sure that you're identifying who they are and talking to them and treating them appropriately based on that information that you have. Allow them to be serviced anywhere, everywhere, like I just described. Go to the hospital or do it via an iPad. That is where this experience economy is really pushing everyone to think about, I have to add this new value all the time. And it doesn't need to be massive innovation. It can be small little pivots, small little things that add up over time and give you this ability to really deliver these moments of wow to your customers. And that's really what it's all about. Because we're sitting in a conference that is very reputation-oriented, and all those things I just rattled off on that list drive your reputation, that experience that your customers have with you. And you can't do this without technology. There's just no way. Whether it's us or someone else, whether it's reputation.com, at the end of the day, there's no way to scale this kind of connection and engagement between you and your customers at scale without technology. Now, if you have 10 customers, okay. There is always sort of the outliers in that comment I just made. But for the mean, it's almost impossible to scale it without it. Where I see the greatest opportunity is the fact that people will invest in technology and then they don't use it. I can't count on 2 hands. I could count on probably 4 times 2 hands. How many times I've walked into a customer's environment and had a meeting with the executive team, and I sit down and this is what I hear. No one's logging into Salesforce. Yep. I don't think we're getting the value out of our spend. What are you going to do to fix that problem? It's like, I'm not sure how we can fix the fact that your employees aren't logging in. But let's talk about that. And a lot of it has to do with, as you use technology like Reputation or others, like, are you using it, number one? Do people understand the value of why you've made the investment in it? And if you're going to invest, and if you're going to use the technology, and if you're going to glean new insights from whatever it is you're investing in, do you then make different decisions because of it? So my neighbor owns a couple Verizon stores. So, I've become the neighborhood consultant. So knock, knock, knock. I answer the door. I have a question for you. You don't say. So let's grab a beer. Let's sit outside. Let's talk about the question, right? He goes, I want to invest in cameras in my stores so that I can see what time people come in, what's the busiest hours, who goes right, who goes left, what they look at, what's interesting to them, what's not. And I go, it's a fantastic idea. Who's going to look at all the video feed? Are you? No. Okay. Who's going to? I don't know. I go, okay, all right, let's table that for a second. Let's hypothetically say that you learn from this video that everyone turns right, but everything you want them to buy is on the left. So are you going to remodel the stores? No. Okay, I'm not seeing what the value of the video is. Great, that was totally worth my time, and leaves, right? So getting the technology because it's shiny and someone gives you some advice that that's what you should be doing is very different than getting your hands on the technology, exploiting and leveraging everything that it gives you and all the information that you have now at your fingertips, actioning that in a different way, and then getting the value out of it. So then when it's time to renew whatever it is as a service you're now using to improve all the things I was just talking about, you don't have that value conversation, or you don't have to have that value conversation with your executives about the spend that you're looking to do again, because they don't understand the value. If you start to show that difference, that's where technology really has the ability to have an impact. But this is where the fourth industrial revolution has the greatest obvious access to saying it is in full swing. That we now don't almost remember what it was like without apps and without the smartphone. If you've been doing this for some time, you are far more comfortable with technology generationally. And the connection that's going on is insane. I always sort of joke in this very connected world that the day my scale in my bathroom talks to my Fitbit, locks the refrigerator, pulls the car up to take me to the gym, I'm out. But it hasn't happened yet, so I'm still here. But we're close. Pretty much everything I just said could happen. The autonomous car sort of pulling up and taking me to the gym, not quite yet. But that's how we're really pushing this. And so one of the examples is sort of Ford, Starbucks, and Amazon. So in a Ford now, it would be like, hey, Tiffany, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's time for your chai latte. There's a Starbucks 2 blocks away. Would you like me to take you there? Soon, I would say, yes, it could take me there, right? But now it would just pop up the map and give me the GPS and take me there. So now it takes me to the Starbucks, and I drive through Starbucks. I no longer have to pull out cash, because that was so, 1990s. And then it was a loyalty card, which was sort of very 2000. And then it became an app, which was sort of 2010. And now it's just your car as your wallet. And that happens today. Now, who owns that reputation? So is that Ford's reputation that you're going to say, that was a great experience with Ford? Is it Starbucks? Is it Alexa now in the cars? So it gets very cloudy in this fourth industrial revolution of whose reputation is being benefited by that example I just gave. But at the end of the day, this has everything to do with the customer. I have been saying now for almost 8 years that I believe that we as customers individually are far more disruptive than technology could ever be. Because I'm not guessing that somebody who's an executive at a business woke up one day and said, I think I'm going to do this just because it's really disruptive, everyone will hate it, it's going to cost me a lot of money, it's going to be really painful, it's going to be way over budget, take twice as long as I want it to, because that's just what I want to do today. It is because the customers are saying, we need these things from you. We need these things from you. Now, for those of you who are in the B2B world, you're like, you've just given all this slew of examples of consumer brands, and I'm in the B2B world. So I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't want you to get hung up in your head as you hear me talking that this is just, when I say consumer, I mean whoever it is that is engaging with you as a brand. Because if you're selling to a business, the person sitting across the table from you is a consumer in their normal life. And they bring those consumer expectations into business. So in a B2B complex sale, you're dealing with 8 consumers that have 8 very different expectations. But what's happening in the market is that a la Peter Drucker, sort of in 1989, he was saying that it's really about capturing this feedback from colleagues and customers. And how do you capture that feedback and use it in a way that is compelling and gives you increased competitive differentiation? And so capturing what they think of you, Net Promoter Score, CSAT, Reputation.com, other venues, message boards, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, pick your poison. At the end of the day, when companies listen to their customers and take that feedback and listen to all the things that they're giving you, they are early indicators of what is to come in the future. And so helping generate these ideas now more so than ever is coming from customers, and the executive team is willing to say, I'll actually listen from the outside in. Remember, moving from being very sort of internally focused to being very customer-centric is if it's not built here, we won't do it. And this is, how do we deliver this really quickly? Moments of wow, do we need to partner? What are the things we can do in order to solve our customers' issues quickly with trust and transparency and security and all the things that go along with that? But ultimately, it's very different than it used to be, where customers are carrying far more influence in the market. And because of that, customer experience has become this competitive battleground. I was fortunate enough to be part of the team at Gartner that made the prediction that the chief marketing officer was going to spend more than the chief information officer, and we made that prediction probably 7 or 8 years ago. And we ended up being right by, I think it was by 2018 or end of 17. And we started talking about the fact that the products were not as important as they used to be over the experience someone has when they engage with a brand. And so when I started going down the path of writing my book, I said, I want to find the ways in which companies, what are the levers they're pulling in order to grow their business? And the very first one for me was customer experience, full stop. And it really is threaded through the entire book. But there's a reason why I picked that one. Because the C-suite is now woken up to the fact of all the things I just said, right? The customer is far more disruptive. They want these moments of wow and personalization. They talk about it more than they ever have before. They're more vocal, good and bad. Things can happen in an instant. And so you have the C-suite saying, I'm going to start to pivot more towards the experience over the products. Not to go away, but just to pivot more. The second one that was a good one is that 67% of us are willing to pay more for a great experience. So, you have a Holiday Inn on one side of the street and a Four Seasons on the other side of the street. The job to be done is to give you a place to sleep when you're not at home. The job to be done. Both will solve that job. One is 10 times more expensive than the other. But people will go, nope, I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use this one because of this elevated experience. And it's really great when we start to see those businesses that have pivoted towards experience are actually growing revenue against those that aren't. And you could do the same thing with reputation scores. You could do the same thing with when you have all up, for all the different kinds of data that you're capturing. You can also see it on customer satisfaction and churn rates and NPS, but you can actually start to correlate now brands that have high scores are growing. And I know that Joe and the team shared a bunch of examples with you over the last day. And so that is really happening. And that allows us to start to have these conversations about things that felt a little soft to executives in past years. And I'm going to go back to my comment about B2B versus B2C, that we want the same experiences in our personal life and our professional life. So, when you're at home and you want to order, paper for the copier, for your printer, takes you what, 2 seconds? But if you wanted to order paper at your office, you have to get like people to sign off on it, and is it over a certain dollar amount, and are you going to use the corporate card, or are we going to, who are we buying it from? Don't buy it out of the contract. Like 4 hours later, you're like, I just needed paper. Why can't it be as easy as it is at home? So that's why I say that I like to get rid of the lines between B2B and B2C, because we as consumers are the ones that have buying power. And at the end of the day, your customers will remember the experience they have with a brand or a person much longer than the price they paid. Full stop. So, how many of you have caught Uber in the last 30 days? Okay, keep your hands up. And how many of you remember what you paid? It works every time. Except when I'm in Vancouver and there's no Uber. That didn't work. But, so, everybody almost raised their hand, and of the people who raised their hand, I don't know, how many of you kept your hands up for remember the price? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it could be maybe because you might have been paying it for yourself and not the company. That's possible. Or it could have been because you had to file an expense report, right? But let's talk about the experience for a second. For me, Uber is all about the experience, because the job to be done is I can rent a car, I can catch a taxi, I can catch an Uber. All will satisfy the job I need done to get me from point A to point B. Why do I pick Uber? So the app makes it super convenient. It connects directly into my expense report now. I don't have to worry about doing that. Last year, I flew 320,000 miles across 6 continents. I have no idea where I am, and I never have the money that I need. So I never have the currency. I'm like, I don't know where could you take dollars? Like, they're like, no. I'm like, I'll give you more. Still don't want it. So that is a currency. And then for me, because of the volume of travel, for me, it's also security, that someone will know where I was last. That is all about experience. And I have stood on the corner in Buffalo in 10-degree weather, looking at my smartphone, watching that little Uber car get closer and closer to me as taxis drive by. Like, really? During like 1.6 surge pricing. So it's freezing out. I'm standing on a corner. Taxis are driving by. I'm spending more money all day long. And I would guess that, I also use Starbucks as an example, that if there was a Starbucks downstairs, how many of you would have walked past the free coffee and gone to Starbucks? So free, $5. Free, $5. And I'm going to bet that the coffee that's free is also Starbucks. Shh, don't tell anybody. But you will happily wait, go downstairs, and spend $5. Or $2 if it's just coffee, whatever it is. The point being, it's about the experience. Your app, how you order, you know exactly what you want, half cap, double cap, foam on top, little cinnamon, whatever you want, whatever floats your boat. It's about the experience. So we remember that, and we remember the bad experiences as well. You could be at a fine dining restaurant, the food could be fantastic. If the service was bad, you're less likely to go back. If the food was just okay and the service was fantastic, you're more likely to go back and tell people about it. So experience is this connector now between brands and success. And how that experience is shared from a reputation standpoint is where this company happens to play. So there is opportunity. If you pivot more towards the customer, if you capitalize on using technology, if you really keep ahead of what your customers are going to want from you in the future, that is the opportunity. Unfortunately, the reality is 57% of us have stopped buying from a company because a competitor provided a better experience. It may not even be a better product, let's say, but the experience was much better. The second one is 51% say most companies fail or fall short of the experience expectations. So we all have these expectations, and then we show up, and it's like, oh, wasn't very good. Like, I thought the dinner was going to be fantastic, or I thought the service was going to be top-notch, or I thought this hotel was going to be far more comfortable, or I thought the doctor was going to be much nicer, or I thought that the warranty service from the car company was going to be better. Because once again, the consumer expectation is here, businesses deliver here. Now, in this same body of research that these stats are from, business to business expectations are actually higher than business to consumer. Because we feel like if we can get this in our consumer lives, we should be able to get 1.x that in our business life, because our business can spend more money, has more buying power, and has more ability to influence the brands that they're buying from. So once again, that's why I try to stay out of this B2B, B2C conversation. And even though I use a tremendous amount of B2C examples, you can pull all of that into a B2B environment. But the reality is, with speed, with technology, with customer expectations, sales is becoming harder. So whatever it is you sell, if you feel you don't sell or service, like whatever it is you do in order to grow revenue at the top line, it's getting harder. Because meeting customer expectations is getting harder and harder. So the reality is, right, growth and comfort don't coexist. How are you going to grow the business? How do I deliver these moments of wow? How do I do all those things? Sales is becoming harder. And the result of sales becoming harder, that's the cause. The effect is quota attainment has gone down for 5 years straight. So if you have a sales force, 2 words, the percentage of, 2 words, I always have to say that. Like, now I have to say that, qualify everything when I use that word. So, Salesforce, 2 words. 50% of your sellers will miss quota this year. 50, 5-0. It's really 54. So, day one, if you are a leader of a brand, of a P&L, of an organization, of a group, whatever, and you have a revenue number, day one of week, month, quarter, year, 50% of them are going to miss. And why is that? One of the big reasons is because 66% of their time is spent on non-selling activities. So if you're not selling, you're going to miss your number. I mean, sort of, that's the basics. Companies do 2 things. You make stuff, you sell stuff. At its most simplest form, whatever that stuff is, you make something, you sell something. It could be a professional service, could be a doctor, could be a car, could be a cup of coffee, could be a widget, could be a hotel room, don't care. But at the end of the day, it's sort of the basics of it. And so the challenge that we have is that as you want to deliver these moments of wow and really try to control more and more your ability to improve what people say and feel about your brand, the people who are your front line engaging with customers, in this particular example, sales, is not spending very much time in that engagement mode. And that's where there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. So ultimately, the question is, okay, let's just say, Tiffany, hypothetically, I agree with half of what you just said over the last 20 minutes. Where do I begin? So I start by saying, full stop. We do not have a technology problem because there is a plethora of technologies to pick from, regardless of what you're trying to solve. And when I started, I was a Loquaz, if for any of you who know what Loquaz is, I was a Loquaz beta client in 2000. I was Constant Contact's beta client in 2001. I've been doing this a little bit. And back then, when Eloqua and Constant Contact, we were the beta clients for them, you know, there was 20 options, maybe, across everything in sales, marketing, and customer service. Today, there's over 7,500 just for marketing alone. The MarTech stack is massive. So we don't have a tech problem. We have a people and process problem. And it's validated from this one stat that I love. So I know some of you may go, well, we're not $5 billion, we're not even $1 billion, we're 100. I don't care the size. Pull that out for a second and just read the last part of this. That these very large companies, 85% of executives surveyed and a full 94% running companies with more than $5 billion in revenue said that internal not external obstacles, keep their companies from growing profitably. What a shame. So that's not customers have stopped coming. That's not, that there's a tariff war going on. That's not that there's a natural disaster. That's not, when everyone goes, oh, the reason we missed our numbers is because let me find something outside my company. Sales is getting harder because internally we're not making it easy for them. Remember, 60+% of their time is spent on non-selling activities. That has nothing to do with what the weather is outside. So we have to get out of our own way. And it has to start with you saying, I have to move from being very product-centric. What is it that we make? What is it that we sell? How do we want to sell? How do we want to service? How do I? So I'm going to use Jeff Bezos as an example. So Jeff Bezos' executive meetings are as follows. If he calls in his executive team, let's call it 10 people or so, and he goes into the conference room, and let's say there's 20 chairs in the room. He removes all the chairs that are not being occupied. So only as many chairs as there are people in the room. And one chair is left empty at the head of the table. Who's that for? For the customer. So if you are in a meeting with Jeff Bezos, if you ever get that opportunity, and you walk in and you go, I think we should, that might be your last meeting, it's always sort of, what does that imaginary customer want from us? What are they saying? What are we hearing? What's the listening telling us? What's the satisfaction scores? What are they buying? What are they not buying? That recommendation engine alone for Amazon.com generates 33 to 35% of the total revenue. That recommendation engine. Right. Like that's us showing up and buying stuff we didn't know we needed. It's brilliant. But it's all about that experience. Is it always right? No. Is it always perfect? No. Are there other things they can do better? Absolutely. However, I'm only focused on just this little story. And so the way you have to start to think about that is, how do I drive down those inefficiencies, get more customer-centric, and start to optimize my selling engine? So get new patients in, sell more cars, book more hotel rooms, have more utilization of my services staff, whatever it might be. How do I optimize what I'm already doing? Because I've just told you, half of your sellers are not going to hit quota, and 60% of their time is spent on non-selling. So I'm here to tell you that you can actually optimize what you're doing. So before you go hire more salespeople or spend more marketing dollars, you've got a lot of room for improvement. Because, remember, as I said, they're willing to spend more money for a better experience, but they're also willing to spend more money for a simpler experience. Like, don't make it difficult for them to actually buy from you. I love when I show up at brands, offline or online, and I'm like, I am trying to give you money. Like, I want to leave. Take my money. Can I just leave it on the counter and I don't keep the change? And they make the whole process really difficult. Checking in, checking out. Oh, can you fill out a little, say what time you arrived? Do you have, you have to do all these things. Where if you knew more about me, if you were paying attention, you would know those things before I showed up. And really, at the end of the day, we're not very happy with the conversion rates of what we're doing from a selling perspective, from an engagement perspective. The good news is almost 50% of us are saying that we're trying to optimize our selling. We know we have opportunity for improvement. And so as we listen and we learn from customers and we know what's working and what's not, what's wowing the customers and what's not, we can start to make those changes. Remember, the video in a Verizon store, I've got that information, but I'm not changing my behavior. So if you started to see your reputation waning, that's the canary in the coal mine for the trailing is going to be you're not going to hit your revenue numbers. So how do you say, I want to take everything I'm getting off of reputation.com, and it should be telling me that if it starts to slip, what am I going to do to fix it? Why is it slipping? What's happening? How can I dig in and uncover what the triggers are for those changing behaviors? And a lot of it has to do with this last bullet. Remember I said it was internal, not external reasons, is that 54% of sales organizations do not formally align their sales process and other aspects of how they sell to the specific journey customers take. So how many of you in the room actually manage sales in some way? How many of you manage marketing? Okay, let's just start there for just 1 second. The sales process, stage 1. And then the customer goes, I can't wait to get to stage 2. And then they go to stage 2. And then they go, I can't wait, I'm going to go to stage 3. And marketing goes, oh, it's this beautiful funnel. I'm totally being transparent here. I think they're both ridiculous. However, do you know when the funnel, I'm going to digress. Do you know when the funnel was actually invented? Anybody? What'd you say?
I said prohibition.
Okay, so he said prohibition. You're not even close. When was it invented? 1890. Swear to God. And we still use that damn funnel. Wow, right? That's what I said. I tweeted that the other day, or I put it on LinkedIn the other day, and you should see what everybody said. I got like 25,000 views on this. Everyone had an opinion about it. I'm like, so I put the life of the funnel. I went like 1895 to 2019. I think it might be time to change. I don't know. Because we want to try to push customers through a funnel, and we think that this sort of sales process matches their buyer journey. It does not. So you have to start with this disconnection between teams. So I asked sales and marketing, how many are in customer service or customer success or, okay, great. So I think you're the hidden gem in growth. I'll take my money after. So, because I'm sure you'll show this clip to your executive team. She said that, I say it in the book too, but ultimately, people think about this disconnection between sales and marketing. And trust me, it's not getting any easier. I'm not really sure why. But that battle continues between sales and marketing. But marketing enables sales, but they don't spend as much time enabling customer service or customer success, whatever you want to call it. So the triangle of those three, that is the holy grail for me. The only way you can align those three groups is you have to have connected metrics. So I'm going to give you an example. So I called my phone company starts with an A. Called my phone company because my internet was down. I had a hard down, I work from home. I don't care how long I had to stay on the phone, I just needed it fixed, right? So I get this, first I start chatting to try to solve it. You know, he pings my network, says there's a problem, like, you know, can I call you? Sure, here's my number. So he calls me. At 29 minutes, he has to hang up and call me back. Why do you think that is? Because his metric was you can't talk to a customer longer than 30 minutes. So he called me back. But of course, with that first hang up, you're like, oh my God, please call me back, please call me back, please. I don't want to have to tell this story all over again, right? Which we've all done. When you got to, oh my God, I got disconnected, I got to tell someone the same story again. Because nothing was captured. And everyone's named John. So no one's going to help you. Every 29 minutes for 90 minutes, 3 times he had to hang up and call me back. 3 times. Another time, my hotel chain, which I am, you know, at the highest level, we're staying in it. I was traveling in Australia and New Zealand. So they booked the rooms for me. I had my confirmation numbers. They had not applied my loyalty number, so I said, that's okay, I'll just call in to the call center, you know. So, you know, remember, personalized, we're getting better with experience. We recognize your phone number, Tiffany. We direct you to the priority line. We answer the phone and say, hello, Ms. Bova, how can we help you? Is it about your stay in 2 weeks, right? So that's all good, right? Goodness, we've using the technology, it's personalized. I say, okay, I've got 5 confirmation numbers. I need to apply my loyalty. Can I give them to you? Absolutely. A12, sorry, stop. Oh, I'm sorry, A12, no, sorry, stop. Has a letter in front of it. Are these international? I said, as a matter of fact, they are international. What do you think that customer service representative said? You're going to have to hang up and call them. All 5. I'm like, hello? Am I on the priority line? Have I not stayed 4,000 nights? Okay. So imagine, I'm in the priority line. Imagine someone who never stays there. So I'm sure that the decision was made that that field in their CRM system, which is ours, did not. This is on film. This is probably bad for me. So all they had to do was say, let it take a letter, because in the US it's a number. So someone sat there and said, you know, at our top tier, people are going to travel internationally. Like, we need to make it. It's either that, or they've told their customer service agents you cannot call long distance, right? Can't dial out. So that, because what they could have done was said, just hold on the line, or I'll do it for you. You can hang up, like, right? Great customer experience. Or 3, maybe the agent just didn't want to help me, which is also totally possible. But one of those 3 things. And so the metric drove the behavior. Get me off the phone really quickly. I can't stay on the line to try to solve this customer's problem, even though they're high tier. So the third one is this disconnected experience. So as I just shared with you, right, disconnected teams between sales, marketing, and sales, and customer service. The metrics are off. Ultimately, I've just given you 2 stories that were not a great experience. And it wasn't a technology problem. It was a people process problem. So for me, at the end of the day, growth is a thinking game. It's all about outthinking your competition at this point, because the barrier to entry is very low. The cost of getting access to the technology that the big Fortune 500 companies have is low. The advantage is startups, smaller businesses don't have all that legacy infrastructure. They can become much more agile and very responsive. They have a smaller customer base that they can understand better, segment, and capitalize on innovating and growing. And so, at the end of the day, are you guys seeing growth as a thinking game? Okay. Sorry, the slides got off. All right, so the first thing is that you have to make time to sell. If you're constantly in the business, you're not out talking to customers. And it's super important for you to understand what that is. You have to start to trade your intuition for insights. If you're going to make an investment in something like reputation, then you have to listen to it. Then you have to say, we're getting some signals that something is not right. So how are we going to slowly pivot this to fix it? Where in sales specifically, we're very intuitive driven. Marketing is, the metric is, it's leads, don't care the quality of leads, but we hit the leads number. Customer service is, we had first call resolution. I answered the phone in 10 seconds, that's my metric. I don't care if you answer it in 10 seconds if you have to transfer me 5 times. I'd rather wait on hold for 2 or 3 minutes and get to the right person the first time. But the metric doesn't drive the behavior. That is an obvious. Somebody in the call center, trust me when I tell you, knows that that's the truth. And someone's not listening to them. And by the way, those 2 examples I gave you earlier, both customers of sales, we've gotten that fixed. So it's good when I actually knew someone I could call. But the insights will help to change the behavior. And then don't chase your perceived competition. At the end of the day, who is your competition? You have the Amazons that are getting into everything. You have international companies that are competing against our big brands when they're going in and moving into market. So your competition can come from anywhere. So you have to make sure that you're listening to what your customers are saying. And then don't be afraid of technology. Embrace the benefit. AI is going to replace my job. If I enter stuff into the CRM, they no longer need me. I don't want my company to know what I'm doing every second of every minute of every day of every week of every month of every quarter. Use it because you're going to get an output from it. And then at the end of the day, your differentiation will be your mental model. There is a difference between a business model and a mental model. How many of you remember TED from United when they launched TED? So TED was a competitor trying to go up against Southwest Airlines that ran a hub and spoke model. United said, we're United. We can go get that business. So we're just going to replicate the business model. Hub, spoke, pick a few cities, call it TED. So just dropped the UNI and put TED up there and had some planes and started trying to compete with Southwest. The fact that only 3 people in the room raised their hand to know who TED is will tell you what happened to that airline. Because what did they not copy? The mental model. The experience people have when they get on a Southwest flight. You don't have to pay for bags. You no longer get peanuts, but you get pretzels, you get drinks, you get little coupons. If you get to a certain tier, you get free Wi-Fi. You know how to board, you know how to get off. You hear the ding, everyone stands up. It's awesome. But that's a mental model. What's your culture? What do you stand for? That's mental. You can replicate someone's business model. Very difficult to replicate their mental model. So if you can win on wow and employee engagement and how do you learn what's going on in your organization, that's where you really can compete. And the last one on this is really rally around the customer. So how many of you have gone in the last 30 days and sat down with a customer? How many of you have not sat down with a customer in the last 30 days? So my action item would be, go talk to some customers. What's the value of everything you've heard? Will it help you? So I use Undercover Boss as my example. How many of you have watched the show Undercover Boss? Okay, so I love that show for all kinds of reasons, but I love the first sort of 5 to 7 minutes. Tells you all about the executive, and then they're sitting in the chair getting made up so that you don't know who they are. And this is what I say, no one would recognize you anyway. Because you never leave your office. I manage from here, from the spreadsheet, and I don't meet the people, internal and external. So rally around your customer. And then you have to empower each other. Empower everybody around you, in your teams, outside your teams. This is all about the higher the engagement you have. If your employees are happy, trust me when I tell you your customers will be happy. So you have to start by getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Getting out of your office, talking with customers. Sales, you're gonna have to talk to marketing. Marketing, you're gonna have to talk to sales. And customer service, I love you. Gotta pull the 3 of them together. Because once you sell them, losing them is a waste. So if you can't serve them after the sale, you've just wasted all that effort. So for me, the backbone of corporate growth is absolutely personal growth. Each of us every day have to feel a little uncomfortable. If we feel comfortable in what we do every single day and we're not stretching ourselves, I don't need you to go crazy. Just stretch a little bit. So, what will you do different? What will you do differently? What will you change because of what you've heard here today? What will you take back to your teams, to your people? What will you think differently about? Well, how will your mental model shift? The one thing I can tell you absolutely is whatever you choose to do, be bold about it. Don't be reckless, just be bold. So with that, you can continue to sort of boost your growth IQ. A lot of the stats that I gave in here from sales and marketing and customer service, you can get your hands on for free at salesforce.com/research. It's all there. We've got a great movie called we've got a great slide up on SlideShare called The Future of Sales that I put out about a year ago. And then as Joe and the Reputation team has been so kind, you all get a copy of my book. So with that, I thank you so much for your attention.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, standing ovation for Tiffany Bova. Let's go.